Welcome back to A Shark's Perspective. So as I mentioned on parts 1 through 5, I had the pleasure of speaking twice at LeadsCon's Connect to Convert conference, and they also asked me to podcast live from the Expo Hall, which was filled with most of the conference attendees. And I'm releasing the series of interviews that are recorded while there and broadcast over the Expo Hall. And this is part 6 with a new friend who I met at the show with an excellent topic that a lot of people come across in their careers. What do we do if our budgets are cut? Liz Rose is the VP of Marketing at Vibrant Credit Union, and she was one of the featured speakers at 2019's Connect to Convert conference. And on this episode, we'll discuss lead gen on a shoestring budget, ice cream trucks, social media for credit unions, when to consider turning off traditional media, Shark Week shirts, the Quad Cities, corn in Illinois, and a lot more. So let's tune into a vibrant VP of Marketing with a vibrant Rose of a Shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. All right, welcome back to the final episode of A Shark's Perspective live at Connect to Convert. So we've got Liz Rose with us. Liz, tell us a little bit about yourself, your career to date.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for having me on your
Absolutely.
show. First of all, my first podcast, so pretty excited.
Nice.
I am the VP of Marketing for Vibrant Credit Union. We are based in the Midwest. We have branches Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, about $800 million in assets. And I've been the lead marketing person there for about 5.5 years now. Actually got my start in the marketing world actually at a casino hotel. So used to get people to spend compulsively. Now I'm getting them to save responsibly. But yeah, so that's kind of my background. Right out of college, I've been in the marketing world ever since.
So you're used to gambling your budget away.
Yes, and they actually let me used to be a secret shopper, so they would give
really?
me money to
Yeah.
go gamble at other casinos. So yeah, it's really fun when it's not your money and you get to keep the winnings.
Did you win or did you lose?
I would win every once in a while, and you could keep it as long as it was not a tax deductible.
Yeah.
So you didn't want to hit a jackpot because then you had to return it because obviously it would mess up with your taxes. But yeah, if you won and you had coined in a certain amount, they let you keep it.
Blackjack or?
I had to play slots, even though personally I'm a table games person. But with the
So you
secret
lose,
shopping,
you just lose more slowly.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So glad to meet you here. You know, for somebody, let's talk a little bit about your topic that you spoke about today, and that's, working on a shoestring budget. I mean, I've worked for a lot of large brands. I think it's always interesting to think that we have some sort of unlimited budget to spend, but you've been through that experience as well as going from a really big budget to a much smaller budget. But I'm probably almost absolutely certain that they didn't say, feel free to take your foot off the gas. You don't need to deliver as much on less money.
I mean, it's kind of back and forth. Obviously, we used to have a $2 million marketing budget. So back in 2014, we were actually Deer Harvester Credit Union. Started with the John Deere brand. That's where we got our roots at. And then converted in 2015, went through a rebrand like most credit unions are doing, getting away from their seg groups, and went to Vibrant. And with that rebrand, we actually pulled back from all traditional marketing. So we went from a $2 million marketing budget to a $300,000 budget, which we had that annually from 2015 to 2018. So
where has the focus been to continue to drive the leads and not, I'm thinking leads and sales and not necessarily the traditional sense, but in a credit union sense as customers? How are you doing that on a much lesser budget?
Yeah, so we do a lot of grassroots and guerrilla marketing. We actually own our own ice cream truck, which is pretty unusual for a credit union. And we look at that tangibly by our NPS score. We added an extra survey question on there. Obviously, the would you recommend, but have you seen our ice cream truck or experience with it? And people who had seen it or had experience with it were twice as likely to recommend us. So things like that with brand awareness. We do a lot on social media for a credit union our size. We are fairly active. We have 21,000 plus followers on social media, on Facebook alone.
That's not bad for a credit union.
Correct,
I mean, come on.
yes. So we are the largest in our area from not just a credit union standpoint, from, we rival some of our news stations with our Facebook following. So we do a lot on there, a lot of targeted promotions. We have tons of engagement on our social media, which is really awesome. And then we utilize the newest craze. Obviously, I was just talking about, you love sharks. We do things like Shark Week shirts to get people engaged. We're really lucky that we have an insurance company as well. So those leads, everyone needs insurance. So even where a lot of credit unions struggle on the lead generation because people, you can't underwrite them, they're not profitable, they can't get a mortgage auto loan. On the insurance side, everyone needs insurance. Everyone in the Quad Cities has a car, they have a house, everyone needs it. So there's really not a bad lead coming from that side.
So was this by choice that the budget was dropped down by senior management, or were you at a point where you were proving you can get more leads and then they cut it? I mean, I'm trying to figure out which came first, chicken or the egg, with the budget.
I would like to say I had more input in it, but no, we really, with the rebrand, we knew we were throwing money at it. Again, very traditional. We are on every billboard. We were running, $40,000 a month and just, blanket branding stuff on TV and radio. And we knew most of it wasn't working. So we really just stopped everything and didn't really have a dip. I mean, we plateaued on growth, but didn't have a dip by any means when we pulled back from everything. We went radio silent for a couple months and really just looked at, hey, from here, what could we do with $300,000? The first year, we performed really well, so we kept that again for 3 years, and now we're back up to $1 million. But this is our first year having a pretty big, hefty budget again.
So within that time shift, did you find where your performance dollars shifted more towards digital, away from TV?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, digital buys are cheaper. They can be more targeted. So like everyone else, we are going that route. From SEM perspective, it's really tough from a credit union because we're competing with the Wells Fargos, we're competing with the Bank of Americas. Everyone's in the lending area now. But yeah, we do a lot with all of the stuff is targeted, even on Facebook and social media. We try to really push our promotions to a specific target, but all of that went digital. We pull back from all traditional forms of.
Had you ever looked at addressable TV, though? Because addressable TV can be just as targeted, if not more, with the forms of data.
We didn't in those 3 years when we had that budget. We do now.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it's a good point, because I just talked about this recently with a friend of mine. I mean, you can do, I think for a lot of people, especially addressable TV, and again, digital, there's more than plenty justifications to spend your money in one or the other, but I think addressable TV at least has come down. You can do a campaign, especially on addressable, for $100,000.
Yes,
you don't have to blow your entire budget just because the CPM's $40 as opposed to something linear based in a local area. But I think it's always interesting, especially when you're in a local market, how much noise do you have to drive? And TV a lot of times is when you turn it off, that's when you hear the phone stop ringing, if you will. So well, what was the channel that is now sort of, I mean, is all of your focus on content, but or is as that budget's grown, where are you starting to shift your dollars?
So yeah, we all of our leads are coming in from online channels. Obviously, we're really heavy in sales and cross-selling, so we do a lot of email marketing. We do a lot of in the credit union and the financial industry. You look at depth of wallet, so how many products and services per household do you have? So really big into finding those members we already have and cross-selling them first. Those are the easiest, the easiest options you have. There, a lot of stuff still at the bottom of the tree to pick from, and then we look at outside of that. We look at how we can bring in different leads from those Shark Week shirts, from things like that, that are tangible things that might not be as targeted, but we have the opportunity, again, from a financial standpoint, everyone needs the services we have. So as much as we like to get targeted, we still have opportunities with those people, even on an educational piece, that we don't get a lot. I mean, our sales department might fight me. We don't get a lot of terrible leads, but all of that's coming from the digital world.
Well, so from an attribution standpoint, once you turn it off, you talked about a little bit earlier about how once you turned off a lot of your bigger spend, you saw an increase in the growth of the leads. But how do you look at it without that? I mean, how do you attribute that back now that you're starting to spend it again?
Yeah, I think we are just spending wiser. So I think it proves that you have to outsmart, don't outspend. We are spending $2 million.
Couldn't agree more.
We were spending $2 million, which is great, but we proved what we could do with $300,000 when you were doing it correctly. So now we'll use that $1 million to do it correctly, and you'll see, 10 times growth over. That $2 million, just because you're spending a crap ton of money, doesn't mean you're going to get the return on it.
Well, and the ice cream truck can't drive through every street in every city. At some point, you've got to go bigger. How do you look then at the different channels? I mean, what sort of excites you the most? Is it you've talked a lot about at your session about how to collect the data and do more of that pinpointed targeting. What are the channels that excite a credit union now that you're being able to do that and increase your spend? Is it search? Is it display? Is it social? I
Yeah.
mean, what gets you excited from a VP of marketing standpoint of where to spend?
Yeah, social is what excites me. We do really well on it, like I stated. We can target those leads. You can't get as targeted with digital, and you know what I mean, with the other avenues. But with social, we can track full tracking conversion. We own social, so we outsource obviously our digital spends and stuff on those other avenues. So with social, we can track it and we can pivot it. When it's not working well, we can pull it so quick and we can move and pivot because it's on us. We house that all in house. So that's what gets me excited. And I can see those physically come in. They go right into our CRM, and I can see the journey of those people from start to finish pretty easily. Whereas on the other, on the digital aspect, or on radio or on TV, you lose them. It's not full tracking. So you don't have
Were you
full
doing
loop.
direct mail?
Rarely. We do every once in a while. I don't want to say no because you might see a piece here and there from us, but very rarely.
Liar. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say very
And then
rarely.
it shows up, yeah.
And you're calling me a couple months later? No.
Exactly. So when you go to a lead generation conference, I mean, one, you're telling your story, which is a great story. It's a fantastic story of being more efficient with your money. It's something all of us should do. But what do you expect to get out of a lead generation conference? I mean, why did you come here?
Yeah.
What did you want to learn?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what everyone wants to learn, how to get more qualified, great leads. There's a lot of amazing vendors out there that are doing lead generation, but there's a lot of shitty ones too. And it's really hard. I mean, I don't want to offend anyone in expo room. Raise your hand if you're one of the good ones. I'll come see you after this. But we've done this all in-house for 5 years now, and we've grown, and we're getting too big for our britches. We're going to need help, and we haven't had that really before. So we do a lot on our own, and we need to find companies that are really awesome to work with, that understand what we're doing. And like I said, there's just, it's hard to tell without working with someone for multiple months.
100%.
For a month to a year, really, to decide and see those leads come full force in the life cycle of those leads to decide if they're good or bad. And it's a lot of money and a lot of time to invest. And that's the hardest part. So obviously coming to a conference like this, trying to find the good ones. So.
Yeah, and it's so funny because there's space for every person to learn. And you come here and you tell an amazing story. And I do a podcast. I talk to so many brilliant people all day long. I'm a subject matter learner, and that's where I keep my focus, because as much as I think I know over my long career, I learn something new from somebody like you giving a presentation today. It's to everybody else out there. There's always something to learn in our space, and our habits are changing so much now.
Yeah, I mean, as a head marketing officer or a chief marketing officer, VP, our job has changed more in the last 5 years than it has in the last 100 years combined. So we really are in a point where data is everything. Data is driving everything. We can't ignore that. And for a lot of people that have been in that job for a long time, they struggle with trying to figure that out. So we want to make sure.
Those are the out of work CMOs.
Yeah. So so we're just trying to figure it out. Like you said, I'm here to learn. I've only been in the credit union industry for 5 years, been in the marketing industry for 10 years, and things have changed so much dramatically already in that short time. Just trying to stay ahead of the game.
So how do you find then that the credit or the financial services industry, especially a credit union, in a not rural market, but not a mass market like Boston where we are, how do you find that to be different from other industries you've worked in your career?
The financial industry is slow. They don't change as fast as the other industries have adapted.
Really? I thought banks were the quickest to adapt. No, I'm kidding.
Banks are the future. They're so innovative. No, you do. You have some, you have Rocket Mortgage. You have Apple just launched their new credit card, which is amazing. I hate to admit it, but it's pretty cool. But you look at things like digital wallet. We still have people writing checks. So trying to change 50, 60-year-old habits of our consumers and our members is really tough. And the financial field is someplace.
I'm waiting for my Venmo checks to print right now.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, like you Venmo your digital wallet. If you do get a check, you're not going into a branch to deposit it. You're doing it from your phone. So we're trying to really change things that are steeped in tradition, and people are scared about it. It's their money. It's their most prized possession. So it's not like, oh, hey, I'm going to switch from Adidas to Nike today because they had an amazing marketing thing. This is your finances we're talking about. So it's really important to them. them, and like I said, we're just slow to change. We're slow to adapt.
Yeah, I tend to think of banks, credit unions as sort of Flash in Zootopia, about that fast. Working at the DMV, it becomes even that much slower.
Yeah.
How do you attack, especially from a data collection standpoint? I mean, we so often think of in a bank setting or a financial setting where the money is the most private thing you hold on to for obvious reasons, but data and the security of that data is as valuable, if not more, to the cash in any kind of vault.
Yeah, a couple of things on data is as a financials have endless data.
Exactly.
We have
That's what
data you could ever want, and anyone in this room, which is amazing. From a marketing standpoint, we don't have to outsource a lot of stuff because we can see every transactions. We know what time you go to Starbucks. We know what time you do this and that. I mean, some really creepy data, which is amazing from our standpoint because it really helps us.
Well, I know. I
target
worked
you.
for a big data company before, so it's scary.
So that's one thing. So I think you need to make it a priority first. I think that's the big thing in the financial world is we don't have a lot of people making it a priority quite yet, especially at our size. And we've invested our department, a data department, a products and services department to analyze that kind of stuff. But from a security standpoint, we are held to the same standards as a Wells Fargo.
Exactly.
Which is why you've seen.
Well, that's setting the bar pretty low.
Yeah, right. Don't put us in that same category. I shouldn't have even said that. But you're looking at.
You get a new credit card through you.
Well, yeah, they open me accounts every day. But no, we're held to those same standards, and it's tough. Our mobile app, our website, everything has to be held to that level, and they spend more in a day on marketing than all credit unions combined in a year, and that's that's a realization. So.
Yeah. So, what is your biggest challenge moving forward in marketing? When you start thinking about how do you continue this growth, because especially with banks, with data, with the challenges there, one being in a not huge market that we take for granted, in any market. I mean, you live 2 hours from Chicago, and I think that maybe sounds good, but I think you're probably, I'm guessing your biggest challenge in an area 2 hours outside of Chicago is finding talent.
Yeah, we 100% have a struggle finding talent. We actually have centralized everything. So even our video banking, when you go into one of our branches, it's a Skype-like experience.
Yeah.
So we can now employ people from anywhere.
Exactly.
Our call center sits in Reno, Nevada. We're in Illinois. Our collections is in Iowa. We're actually in talks with a merger in Maine. So our location really isn't an issue, which is a plus.
Yeah.
We have set ourselves up for growth, which is awesome. But it is hard to finding and retaining that talent, especially when we want the things that we need for the consumers, extended hours, a full-time call center, things like that, are people the highlights in the banking industry of things that people don't want to do. You talk about bankers' hours.
Well, what is your biggest challenge then, from a marketing standpoint? If it's not the people, because you can find the location for it, is it data, technology? What is it?
It's really not. It's obviously technology. We have a lot of resources, but getting them integrated with the financial industry. There's a lot of things in other industries that are amazing and that we'd love to start utilizing in ours. We just haven't been able to yet. But really the big thing is, fighting for the customers like everyone else. In the financial industry, your products can only be so much different. It's a rate environment. People are willing to jump ship for an easier, faster rate. And then you look at the ease of use of the fintechs, and that's where we struggle, where we're still tied by a lot of compliance and regulation, and they're a whole different ball game. You can go and apply on Rocket Mortgage for a mortgage in 5-10 minutes, where our mortgage process takes 30 to 40 minutes in 3 months. So things like that are our really biggest challenge.
Yeah, and don't even want to dive too much into blockchain and where that can go, and with Bitcoin especially. But so you're on a shark's perspective at LeadsCon's Connectivert. I ask this question of everybody: what is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Oh, man.
Not a lot of sharks in Moline, Illinois.
Not a lot of sharks in Moline, Illinois. As I told you, I have been shark cage diving before. I studied, quote unquote, in Hawaii for about 2 months my senior year. So.
And you chose to move back.
And I chose to move back
Moline.
to Illinois. I don't know why. We had negative 60-degree wind chill this year. But a Galapagos shark is probably my favorite. That's where I got to interact with the most, so probably that's why I like it. Obviously, I'm enthralled by a great white shark, but I got to interact with a lot of Galapagos sharks.
So, that being said, are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions you're going to be asked today?
I am so excited.
All right. So, Number 1, Batman or Iron Man?
Iron Man.
Okay. Number 2, the summers in Illinois, which can be pleasant. But at least I didn't throw in the winters. Or the summers in Hawaii.
The summers in Hawaii.
Thank
Yes,
you.
100%.
If you had said anything else, it would have ended the show immediately.
Yes.
All right, number 3, an ear of corn, which you have way too much of
Way
in
too
Illinois,
much.
or popcorn.
Or popcorn? Oh, 100% popcorn.
Thank you.
yes. I'll stop at movie theaters sometimes and don't even go to the movie and get popcorn.
Number 4, conferences in Boston or conferences in Vegas.
Oh, well, I told you I'm a gambler.
Yeah.
But I also am part of a ghost hunting group, so I like Boston because they've got a lot of haunted history, but I still have to go with Vegas, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely.
I love to gamble.
Number 5, and the most interesting and important question you'll be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Or bread? Bread.
Cornbread.
Oh, cornbread. Oh, still cornbread.
Still cornbread. Well,
Still
you're in a
cornbread.
corn state.
I'm in the corn state. Yeah, we have a lot of cornbread around me.
So where do you want people to find out more about you, follow you on social channels and more?
Yeah, if you follow me on LinkedIn, it's Liz Rose Vibrant on LinkedIn. And then follow Vibrant on Facebook. We do a lot of fun stuff.
Awesome. Liz, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you for having me.
So that was my conversation with Liz Rose, the VP of Marketing at Vibrant Credit Union, and she was one of the featured speakers at 2019's Connect to Convert conference. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with her. First, so I've run into this exercise, and I want to challenge everyone to do the same. Your company has cut your marketing and advertising budget. So what do? And it's not even to go above some companies, but just to stay afloat when the larger national companies are advertising in your space locally, and you have to compete with them. I used to work with 2 of the largest banks in the world. They were always out there competing for that dollar against the smaller ones. So, what do you do to spend smarter when you cannot outspend the bigger players, or just the money that you thought you would have gets cut? We'd love for you to just take a few moments to think about how you would handle being innovative with less dollars than you had today. Second, John Wanamaker said, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. And I don't care what area it is, you have to have some additional focus on ROI. For a lot of people, they fear that doing that changes tactics dramatically. And that's not the point. And those people that change too reactively can make massive mistakes. Quite simply, that focus helps show you not only where to spend smartly, but also points out where to invest more. If your budget was significantly cut, but the budget you still had to work for you, then you would want to know what's performing. Third, she reminded me how important conferences can be to people like her and her company. Sometimes Liz and other attendees go to a lead gen conference without a huge budget just to learn what she has to do better to generate more leads, not to be sold to nonstop. Conferences can be great for sales and biz dev people who want to hang out at the bar or the lobby to network. However, there are a lot of people who don't simply go to a conference just to be sold to for 2 or 3 days. Most go to learn, and that classroom, if you will, has to remain the focus. I'm considered a subject matter expert in marketing and advertising, but I will always prefer to be a subject matter learner, and that's why I enjoy some conferences and not others. It's the same as everything else in marketing. Offer me information in a place so that it can help me solve a problem. Don't sell with your outdated sales techniques and brand babble. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you for the privilege of your time. So let's be vibrant, be nice, and then connect to convert on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.